We are here for another episode of Stuff It. I'm going to get the intros out of the way because I often forget. Welcome to Stuff It, a fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Old Man Squad network, brought to you by FanDuel and FanTrax. Go and check all of them out. We'll get into FanDuel a little bit later. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, thumbs up. The numbers are increasing. We are, I want to say a week away from preseason, maybe. I know it's early October, and then we are 3.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks from the start of the NBA. Anyway, it's getting close. We're getting training camp news, injuries already. The Fred VanVleet one, obviously a pretty big one. I know Dan, I think, did a show about that. I posted something. I didn't do a show, but I will be doing some injury shows coming up very soon. Today, we are talking points leagues. So something I don't cover a lot of. I am into points leagues, so I do know a little bit about points leagues, not as much as my guest. But I do get requests to do more points league content. So here we go. Jacob Dunne. Let's talk about points league. Welcome to the show. First time on the show, and we've been going back and forth for, I don't know, it feels like a while.
Yeah, absolutely, Kingy. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I mean, I was just saying right before the show how much anyone else would have just given up on me. I mean, I have 2 young kids I'm expecting next month. I have very limited time. So the fact of how flexible you are speaks to how much you wanted me on your show. And I wanted to be on your show for a long time. And I want to educate your audience on the fun that is points leagues for sure.
Yeah, so first time on here. So we'll do a little bit of digging before we get into the fantasy stuff. So for those that sort of have been following me a couple of years ago, before I was doing this show, when I was doing Balls Deep, which I'm still doing, but when that was my only show, I did a couple of series of analyst interviews. So I sat down with various analysts. I think we did about 30 or 40 of them. It was quite a few, and just talked about their journey and that sort of thing to fantasy basketball and what life looks like away from the camera. Now, obviously, we're not going to do a full show on this, but we can give people a little bit of a background here. You mentioned you've got two young kids and almost a third. I know it's very close. So how old are your 2?
So I got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. So a second grader and a preschooler. And it's true what they say. I mean, I literally blinked and now they're at school. And I think that's the reason why we wanted a third one. Like one more kid, let's get, like our baby fix, and then we can be set. Like 3 kids seems, I don't know. It seems appropriate given I came from a family of 3. She came from a family of 3. And now my job is just to push basketball on them, just be like, look, we are in Nugget country. I didn't grow up a Nuggets fan, and I'll touch on this later when I tell about my story. But, hey, you are from Colorado. Let's root for the Nuggets. Let's root for Joker. And if they don't like it, like, well, too bad.
Yeah, so I figured you were there in Colorado somewhere, because I know when we were working at the time. Usually, when I work out the time with someone, we talk Eastern time or Pacific time. We talked Mountain time for you, and I'm like, whoa, What is Mountain time? And I figured it was the Colorado, because I know that the Rockies, it's high up, but 2 and 2 together. So you're not from Colorado.
No, I'm from Vegas. I was born and raised there, and I'll say, unfortunately, I was, but I got out of there.
Okay, so you got out of there when you were old enough to leave, or did your family move away? So was it just you, or all of them?
Well, what's funny is that my parents are still there, because when they first moved there, they worked at the on the Strip, in the casinos, and so they're still there. But me and my brother and my sister, we all left. We all spread all over the country, all over the USA. So I think I know this isn't a podcast on bashing Vegas. It's just that I would prefer to raise my kids elsewhere. I'll say that.
Fair. Look, fair. I've been to Vegas a couple of times, and I certainly get that. It's fun to visit.
Sure.
Like we've been there. The first time we went, actually, we were in Vegas we did the whole summer league, so we were there for about 12 days.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time to spend in Vegas. So you spent half your life in Vegas, so
Yes,
it's a very long time. It is very hot. That's sort of if people say sort of what are your main takeaways from Vegas, it's the heat, the people, and it's very different. Like that was my first exposure to America was Vegas. So I thought, is all of America like this? And now that I've been to multiple other places, I know that it is not. Vegas is sort of the outlier. So do you get back there very often to see your parents, or would you rather them come to you?
Right now, with all the kids, I would rather them come to me. We try to make it out there once a year, but with all these kids and with like the flight prices just skyrocketing, it's just very tough to not only find the time, but to find the budget to get out there. And we've driven a few times, takes like 12 or 13 hours, but with kids, I'm sure that you've had those long road trips with your kids, Adam, and it's just like, I would rather not, like, please just come to me. I got room.
Yeah, completely understandable. So you moved from Vegas, you moved to Colorado, or have you lived anywhere else?
I lived in California for a second. I went out to school there in LA. After I got my prerequisites done at a community college in Vegas, I went to California. I went to a school called Biola. It just wasn't for me. I wasn't loving it. And so I was like, well, Colorado was my second choice. So let's see what they have for me. And, I had already been dating my now wife, and she moved here with her family. So it was an easy decision. We moved here when I was like 19 and I never left. It's been like 14, 15 years. And I've been loving it out here. I love the mountains. So it works out.
It's one of the places I haven't been, but I know it's on our list of places for our next trip.
Come on out here, Adam. Let's do it. Let's hike.
Colorado, Portland,
cool.
Seattle. So up sort of there, and then maybe up into Canada. But that's a couple of years off. So my cousin's. So my cousin's parents, ex-parents-in-law. So she's not with her husband anymore, but they have two kids together. So his parents actually live in Colorado. So she is off to Colorado, I think, in about probably a month, maybe 3 weeks.
There we go.
Taking the kids over. So I know she's been over there, and I see the photos from her when she's there, and it certainly looks like a nice place. So Nuggets.
Nuggets.
So they did you have a team growing up? I mean, how did you? I mean, we'll work on how you got into fantasy, but in terms of just NBA in general, is that a sport you grew up watching, or something you were attracted to as you got older?
No, I grew so being from Vegas, as you know, well, like back then, like there was no sports teams at all. It was just the UNLV Rebels, which we were all a fan of course, because that's the closest to pro sports as we can get. Is our college team. Larry Johnson. That was before. Well, I mean, that was back in the early 90s when I was just born. So, you hear of the legends of Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon, at every game you go to, like you see like their pictures on the walls. And I'm sure you saw them as you were at the summer league, like you see all these murals of them just because that was like our golden age of sports, like before the Raiders came, and I guess Vegas might be getting a basketball team and a baseball team, blah, blah, blah. I'm not there anymore, so it doesn't really matter to me ish, like I'm happy for all the people in Vegas, but it was just the Rebels. So growing up, I was more of a Players fan, which can probably give credence to my fandom of being a fantasy player and being like a fantasy analyst, because I didn't focus on one team. I wasn't loyal to one team. I was loyal to Vince Carter and the Raptors because I was just a huge fan of the dunking, because I just, as a kid, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy is a high flying dunker. So much fun to watch. But I was not loyal to a specific team. I still rooted for the Raptors because I liked Vince Carter, but I was more of a players guy.
Okay.
Which kind of, lends itself to fantasy for sure.
It does. Sometimes not in a good way. I mean, if there's certain players that you like, they're not always the real life doesn't translate to fantasy, as we know. So
true.
It can cause you to stumble a little bit. So obviously, you moved to Colorado. Now, I mean, people that sort of watch NBA now just think of Denver as a powerhouse, top 4 in the West team.
Yeah.
But it hasn't always been like that.
No,
No, there were some rough periods there. So it wouldn't have been all smooth sailing as a Nuggets fan.
No. So when I came over here for college, I think around 2017, 2016, I actually had never been to an NBA game before. And so I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, all right. And tickets were super cheap because they weren't very good. So I'd go onto StubHub. I'd buy tickets for $5. I'd go probably once a week, every Friday, just to celebrate the week being over. We had Ty Lawson running the point. We had Danilo Gallinari at the 3. Andre Miller backing us up at point guard. Like, it was a fun team. And if anyone knows this, Kenneth Faried, all right, the Manimal, super fun player to watch, like high energy guy. But they were awful. Like this was after we traded Carmelo to the Knicks and got that influx of like Wilson Chandler, Danilo. Who else did we get? Mozgov? I don't know, something like that. But just like a hodgepodge of players. They were supposed to be our core. They were fun, but they never really amounted to much. But yeah, I mean, like the Nuggets were awful when I came here, but it was good for me and my college budget because I could afford tickets to go watch them live. Yeah. So, but now I can't. I mean, like $5 tickets then is now $100 tickets, even way back in the nosebleeds. So it's fun times that the Nuggets are good, but I can't get out there much anymore.
No, it's and I remember that sort of era of the Nuggets quite well. So that's sort of when I got into fantasy basketball, mid sort of 2010, so 2015, 2016. And Gallinari was one of my favorite players at the time. So my cat at the time, I actually named my cat Danilo.
Yes,
and I have a Gallinari Nuggets jersey. I loved him and Faried, obviously, who was pretty hit or miss, but he was certainly brought a lot of energy. And people, if you wanted to sort of a comp for now, the NBA today, I sort of think, hair aside, a little bit Montrezl Harrell was like that. He was sort of an energy guy. Who would you sort of compare him to if you're looking at today's game?
I think when I think of the Manimal, I think of Precious Achiuwa, just because they're very similar. Undersized centers who can't shoot, but they can rebound the heck out of that ball, and like just like bring like energy for days. Like I actually love Precious. Like when he actually gets minutes, he's he is a rebounding machine. It's just like, but he just doesn't get the minutes. But I think that Precious and Harrell, which I really wish that Harrell was still in the league. I know that he's doing well in the big 3, but I really like his energy as well. So
a weird tangent actually here, Montrezl Harrell. So he played here in Australia last year in our national league and was of course he was a hit, like fan favorite. And it was, having watched him in the NBA for however long it was, like watching him for 10 years, that sort of thing in the NBA and seeing what, as you said, if you think of him, you think of energy, you think of rebounding, dunks, just running the floor, that kind of thing. When he was here in the NBL, he was obviously the level here, while it's certainly increased, it's not NBA level. So he was actually able to take on more offensive responsibility. So he was shooting threes, mid ranges, averaging 20 points a game, kind of thing. Still getting your rebounds and energy, and he actually got into almost a fight with a member of the crowd in a game. So he was suspended for 6 games, I think. And look, it was it actually didn't blow up into too much, but it was
Okay.
very. I do remember people in the media were sort of, who is this guy? And those of us who knew who he was are like, it's just Montrezl Harrell. Like,
Sure.
it wasn't. We weren't surprised at all. So he
That's
actually had
funny.
a really good season, but then he went off to China, I believe, in the off season just to play some games over there. He got done for, I think he had some marijuana on him or something, like driving around in his car. So he got done. So he came back here for this season, which has just started, and FIBA then stepped in and said, no, hang on, this guy's been done for drugs. Anyway, long story short, he is not playing in our league this year because of that. The team parted ways with him, which was unfortunate because, the team he was playing for were looking really, really good, and now they've lost him. So I still think they'll be good. But yeah, so we actually got to see Montrez close up here, which was fun.
Yeah, I mean, that explains why he's in the big three now, I'm sure, because they don't care about, if you're packing anything, right?
No,
It's like,
that's
just
right.
please come.
That's right. And I mean, yeah, look, it is what it is. People obviously have their opinions on those sorts of things. But I mean, go to Vegas. There's
everywhere.
a world where it doesn't matter, does it?
Right, exactly.
So, and even I think San Francisco is maybe the same. I don't know. I know there's a few states where it's legal, and then others
Colorado
where it's not.
too.
So, Colorado, okay, and so it was unfortunate, but we did get to see him. So fantasy. So
yes.
So you're a Nuggets fan. They're struggling, and then obviously, I still remember vividly that there was a point in time where the Nuggets had to decide between Jokic and Nurkic. They had both of them, and Nurkic was actually starting. This was probably because I was getting into fantasy, so I was paying a lot of attention to rotations. They had to select. They went with Jokic, obviously, in the end, which was, I mean, imagine they'd gone the other way. It would be a very different story. So Jokic has turned into obviously the best player in the world, multiple MVPs. You getting into fantasy, how did that transition happen?
I've actually been into fantasy since I was like 12 years old, and I was in a house with a old beat up Windows 95, and we had access to AOL, and I had heard about fantasy sports on TV, probably like on ESPN. So like I went on to ESPN's website, signed up for a fantasy league. This was fantasy football at first, just because I didn't even know there was other fantasy sports at the time, so I was like, fantasy football, cool. And then like a year later, I was like, oh, there's fantasy baseball and fantasy basketball too. And like, those were like the three sports that I mainly paid attention to. But fantasy basketball always had a hold on my heart, just because I thought that the players were the most entertaining. And I just love like the high flying dunks of Vince Carter, Kobe, Tracy McGrady, like these 90s and early 2000s guys, like absolutely created this passion in me that like I had to be around the game, in the game, playing, doing fantasy, talking about it as much as I possibly could, because this game is the most entertaining sport in the world to me. So, I mean, how could I not do fantasy,
Yeah, it was very different. I mean, I've talked about this on the show with other people in the past, but about for us here in Australia, exposure to the NBA, especially in the 90s, like that's when I remember, because it was Michael Jordan and I love the Pacers. So, and Larry Johnson
Reggie
was one of my favorite players as well. So for us, exposure to the NBA was very limited. We got maybe one game a week at midnight. And we would have to stay up and watch. There was a show that used to be on our sort of free to air TV, which hasn't existed for a long time, but it was called Sports Tonight. And that would be the only show where you could get highlights and results of the NBA. The only other way to get it, because this was before the internet was sort of, I guess it existed, but it wasn't in in all homes, that sort of thing. The only
Gotcha.
other way would be to read the newspaper the next day and look at the box scores.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
very limited. So now, I mean, completely different world. Now we have NBA League Pass, so we can watch every game every day. And I actually, from what I've heard, now again, I've only been in the States once during NBA season. So I've been there a few times outside of NBA season, but only once during the season. And it does appear, or from what I hear and read, that depending on where you live in the States, you can watch your team play, but it's maybe not as easy to watch other teams play, because League Pass over there, I think, is a little bit different than it is for us. Now, I don't know exactly how true that is, but if you have League Pass in the States, can you watch every game every day, or are you sort of limited geographically on where you're located?
I got to be honest with you, Adam. I don't have NBA League Pass. I pretty much am succumbed to what's on ESPN and TNT, and I will watch the game from start to finish. But no, I haven't really invested in League Pass, so I can't give you a completely accurate answer. I do know that wherever you live, it is pretty much blacked out no matter what. Like, you can't really watch the Nuggets here locally all the time. Sometimes they do, but there's a dispute between the network. It's called Altitude Network. Like, there's like a dispute between them and a major broadcasting company, where it's like, no, we're not going to let you watch. You better buy tickets or you find another game to watch. So it's kind of been annoying in that sense. But yeah, I'm not really sure about the League Pass. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just something I've heard, and I see things on Twitter and people complaining, and I know there was that sort of not an article. I think Adam Silver came out and said something like the league is a highlights league, and if you can't watch your team play, whereas as I said, here in Australia, if you have League Pass, you can watch any team every day. Like, every game is live. So I don't know how different it is over there. All right, well, look, let's get into fantasy, because that is why we're here. Now, I mentioned at the top, FanDuel sponsoring us today, and I was just having a look. We were talking about the Nuggets, so let's sort of stick on that theme. Nuggets, if we're looking at regular season wins this season, their plus minus is 50. I want to say it's 54. So 54 and a half. Last year they won 50 from memory. I think they were 50 and 32.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah. So 50. So FanDuel has them winning sort of 4 to 5 games more this season. Would you say coming into this season they're positioned to make a step up, given the West is very loaded, especially when we compare it to the East? The East doesn't look strong at all. Would you say that the Nuggets are positioned to win an extra 5 games this year, or would you sort of take the under and assume that they're going to hover in that 50 range again? Because they have added Bruce Brown, who a bit of a Nuggets favourite, despite the fact he wasn't there for very long. He was there when they won the title. So, yeah, do you think that this is a season where they can take a step up? Or, I mean, where would you be sitting on that over-under of 54 and a half?
I personally think that this is the best Nuggets team that they've had since they won the finals, which we're only like 2 years out, but like, I'm just saying, like you said, we signed Cowboy Bruce back, Bruce Brown, Jonas Valanciunas is an incredible depth piece behind Jokic. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. And then I actually think it was such a brilliant move to trade Michael Porter Jr. for Cameron Johnson. They are similar age. I think Cameron Johnson is a little bit older, but he doesn't come with the injury risk that Michael Porter Jr. does. Now, MPJ has done an incredible job at staying healthy over the past 2 years or so, which has baffled me. I was like, I'm not touching him any year with that severe back issue that he has. But I think the older he gets, father time comes for us all. And, you can't stay healthy for that long. I think that he actually does ball out with the Brooklyn Nets. It's going to be an inefficient mess, but who else do they have other than Cam Thomas? And, it's just, and like a bunch of rookies that they just picked. Right.
Yeah.
But saying that, I think that that Cameron Johnson was such an incredible, to me, upgrade as far as health-wise, as far as just being a glue guy, like a chemistry guy that will work well with Jokic. So I really like our depth. This is the best I've seen the Nuggets overall depth. And Tim Hardaway Jr. proved last year, like he was hot more often than not with Detroit. So I really like that aspect. I like how deep they are. The only question to me is like, is Jamal Murray, is he going, like, he kind of regressed for me last season. Is he going to continue that path, or was it just kind of a down year, just trying to get healthy? My money is on he's going to be a little bit better than last year as well, and Joker's going to Joker. So, I'm a fan of what the Nuggets did over the offseason, and I do think that they can beat that over-under. Now it is going to be right there. So I'd probably not touch it because I can see it being 52, 53, 54, 55, or even 56. So that's as a better, I would probably go to a safer bet.
Yeah, I think I agree. And just with, as that if they lose Jokic for 2 weeks for whatever reason, and they have a tough run where they're playing even your sides like the Lakers, Memphis, those teams that are all going to be in that discussion, they could easily lose sort of 6 games in a row. And at the end of the season, that's the difference between 55 wins and 51 wins or 50 wins. So, I think it's going to be tough to touch those ones. But jump over to sportsbook.fanduel.com. All the over-unders are there. And we are going to get a bit of an idea of rotations and depth and that sort of thing. We're already seeing it now that we're in training camp and media day has come and gone. And as I said, preseason is only about a week away. So we're going to get some clarity there. And I agree with the Nuggets. I think obviously Bruce Brown, Valanciunas, two really good additions. I do think Tim Hardaway, given that he's going to have to do less on this team, I think that's a good thing for Tim Hardaway. I think that's where he plays. He plays much better as someone who is just sort of out there, not as a starter, not playing 33 minutes a night. And then the Michael Porter Jr., Cam Johnson switch. Really good example, I think, of 2 players who are very similar in terms of what they bring to the court. And this is from afar. Obviously, you are there in Denver, and I'm here in Australia. But on the surface, it does look like Michael Porter Jr. comes with some baggage in terms of off-court stuff and just some narratives you hear, that sort of thing. I don't think we haven't heard anything like that with Cam Johnson. So I think despite the fact that they're very similar players, and the numbers will look pretty comparable, I think, but across from what MPJ did last year to what Cam Johnson does this year will be fairly similar. The fit, I think, will be a huge difference, and just the connectivity and everything that comes with him, I think, will benefit the team as a whole. So I do think that Denver, and the odds reflect that. I think they're 3rd favorite maybe to win the title at the moment, behind OKC and Cleveland. So. I think whoever sets those lines agrees with us. Yeah. Into points leagues. Let's talk points leagues. So you play largely points leagues. Do you play in any category leagues?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I started on 9 category leagues. I don't even think, and maybe it was, I don't think points league was a thing 10 years ago. I don't think so. I think it was more so to appease the fantasy football crowd who just wanted to have fun with the fantasy basketball instead of worry about all the categories. And, this is actually how I got into points league, is that I had my local buddies here in Colorado who were in my fantasy football league. I was like, hey guys, you all love basketball. You all talk about it at length. Let's start a fantasy basketball league. So we all did a 9 category league. Well, everyone was like on it for the first month, but then it became too much for them, as I'm sure everyone who's listening has heard people say, like, fantasy basketball is a lot tougher than fantasy football when it comes to category leagues, because you have to be mindful, of course, of 9 categories versus just a points league. And this was everybody in my league wanted to quit afterwards because they're like, it's too much work. I don't have time for this. because they're not a diehard like us,
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, here is a compromise. There is a points league where it's just like fantasy football, but it is fantasy basketball. You're just taking like arcade style chaos and just doing points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, and turnovers are -1, but like you're not really dinged that much for getting turnovers. Now there are points leagues where the scoring setting is different and you should definitely be mindful of it. But the way that I play is pretty bare bones. Like points are 1, rebounds 1.2, assists 1.5, blocks 3, steals 3, turnovers -1. And if you have a double little bonus, a triple double bonus, that's great. That's fun. So I just love points leagues. Like I got into it because I love that chaotic arcade style, like NBA Jam. You don't really have to worry about it, but I do love the sophistication of a 9-cat league. I can never just completely abandon that, but I've shifted my focus to points leagues. One, because my friends like loved it. They, we all enjoy it together. And it's just, I don't know. It's just a lot easier, in my opinion, than 9-category leagues. But both are fun and have their own merit to it. It's just that I just took fantasy points leagues and I ran with it. And now that's pretty much my fantasy basketball identity.
Yeah, and I mean, there's pros and cons to both, and obviously, 9-cat leagues are more of an investment because you need to be across the details a little bit more. Where, as you said, points leagues, it's really just quantity over quality. It's just the guys that are touching the ball a lot, that are putting up a lot of shots, getting a lot of rebounds. So it is, I guess, a more of a straightforward format. And yeah, interesting. You mentioned sort of fantasy football there. That's what I hear. So I know. I mean, I know a little bit about football in the States, but in terms of fantasy football, I never played it. But that's what I hear, is that a lot of people who transition from fantasy football to fantasy basketball come through that points channel because it is a very similar format, and then move into category leagues. So you actually went sort of the other way. You started in category leagues, and then because of your friends, that's always a weird, well, not really a concept, but like I'm in a couple of category leagues here with friends. So I've got 2 sort of home leagues, I suppose, that I run. And one of them is the first league I ever joined. And
that's cool.
I'm eyes on the NBA all the time. I'm always watching, I'm always reading, checking things in. And then like people will post stuff in our group chat and I'll go, that happened 2 days ago. And people will say, oh, I didn't know this. And it's always weird in my mind because I go, why wouldn't you know that? Oh, because you have a life, probably. So it's, but it's funny as we get, like they all know obviously what I do, that I do the fantasy stuff and the podcasting, everything. During the sort of, even the regular season, it doesn't get talked about too much. I'm just a member of the league. Well, I'm the commissioner, but just running the league. We're in it together. It's funny this month now, like leading up, because we do an auction draft in person at someone's house. So we're all in the house together.
That's awesome.
Over the course of a day. So it takes us about 5 or 6 hours to do the draft. We're all having beers.
Yes.
And it's funny, sort of from now. So we've got, what do we got? About 2 weeks till their draft, 2-3 weeks, something like that. They start messaging me like privately on Facebook and things like that, saying like, because they're all going, oh shit, we've got a draft in 2 weeks. I need to know what's happening. So they all start messaging me privately to ask my thoughts on who should I be keeping in our league and who's like, was this worth? And then I hear nothing from them again for the next sort of 48 weeks. So
of course.
Yeah, so it is weird. So you sent me a list of players. So points leagues, as I said, we're looking at quantity over quality. So I'll start with a guy that sort of epitomizes that, I think, and someone who, if you were to pull up, if you are on Basketball Monster or hashtag any of those sites that have projections, and you can look at that. If you were to plug in points format and then look at your projections and compare those to your head-to-heads, that's a very easy way to just see who gets a bump, because well, again, this is me. I look at rankings every day, so I know who sits where in normal category projections. If I then pull up the points ones, I can see names straight away that go, oh, he is way higher in this one. Zion Williamson jumps from like in the 50s sort of thing to being a first round player in points leagues. Now, obviously, injuries and games played is a question mark, but he is a very good example of a guy who gets a massive bump in points leagues.
Yeah, and I'll say this so many times to anyone who's asking advice. Usage and availability wins championships in points leagues. It is not similar to a 9-cat league. Like you said earlier, like for most of the time, quantity often beats quality, which is so weird. But over like the course of a season, you need players who you can rely on towards the end of the season, because that's where players start to break down and get shut down. And Zion, more oftentimes than not, always gets shut down, and he never plays back-to-backs. I don't think he will ever play back-to-backs for his entire career. Like, it was so frustrating to be down a game and then last year it was like he would miss 2 games in a row randomly. Like, he burned me so many times that, like, it's like, why do I keep falling for it? He keeps falling to me and I keep taking the value, but then I'm like, it's not value if he is not, like, I don't want to say like if he's not guaranteed to play every game. No one plays every game anymore. No. But he will sit out 30% of the games, and like that's not what you want in a points league. But as you've seen, Adam, and I'm sure that everyone who's listening has seen, Zion has this incredible transformation, right? Like he has never looked skinnier. He kind of has a goatee now. He kind of looks like Bobby Portis with that goatee. I don't know if you've seen a current picture, but it's giving me Portis vibes. Yeah. But maybe that will help him stay healthy. But they said the same thing last year when he was cutting and when he lost weight last year, and I am not falling for it again this year. And maybe I'll get burned, but I'll sleep happy knowing that I don't have to worry every night. Is Zion playing for me tonight?
Yeah. And that's the risk. I mean, in a category league, you can get Zion in the 4th or 5th round, and that sort of eliminates some of the risk. Sure. But in a points league, he's probably going to go, as I said, he's a first-round player, but people will be cautious. But he's likely going to go inside the top 20 in most points leagues. And that means he's a first or second rounder. So coming with that risk, and the worry, I think, for me, obviously players get injured and some we would consider injury prone, some are unlucky. For Zion, my concern is that it's been a lot of hamstring issues, a lot of soft tissue injuries, and they are sort of, I guess they're tricky to move through in terms of full explosion. Like, can he get back to the Zion that we know he can be on a consistent basis? And as you alluded to, he's going to probably miss back-to-backs. We don't expect him to play 75 or 80 games, but we don't expect anyone. I think the average now sits in the mid to high 60s. So you're looking 67, 68. But even that feels like a stretch for Zion. I think we'd be happy with 55 games of Zion. And that sort of says that's where our mind is at. And that's not what you want from a first or second round player.
Absolutely not. And I was going to actually say like over under 50 games. So you just said maybe over, but that's like wishful thinking, like hopeful thinking. I just don't want to deal with that headache all season long on my team, at least.
Yeah. So some more guys on your list here now. And I guess if you are new to points leagues or you want to move into points leagues, one way to look at it is if you think of category leagues, you think of certain players and you bump them down because of percentages. So they miss free throws or they're poor from the free throw line. Throw that out the door. So if that is your reason for not drafting someone or for bumping them down, straight away I think they move up in the rankings. Paolo Banchero, very good example of that. RJ Barrett has sort of long been a player who benefits greatly in points leagues. Ja Morant. Who else have you? You've got Alperen Sengun, another one who just puts up numbers everywhere, but his free throws are really iffy and weird.
Exactly.
He'll have a game where he shoots 55% and then he'll shoot 41% in the next game.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Julius Randle. So who are some of your favorites? I've rattled off a few on your list there. Who are sort of some of your favorite targets out of that list or just other names?
So I'm trying to get Paolo Banchero everywhere. Like, I just did an article for Fantrax, my top 250 points league rankings. That just dropped a few days ago. And I have Paolo right on the edge of being a first and second rounder. He's ranked number 13. I just think he is next in terms of being a superstar. His game is very reminiscent of LeBron James. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be the next LeBron or anything, but for that Magic team who just acquired Bane. Now, I know that probably everyone, as soon as I said, it's like, oh, but Bane is there. His usage is going to go down. Maybe his usage goes down, but maybe his efficiency goes up. And that's more of a 9-category argument. You don't have to be efficient in points leagues, but efficiency does lead to more scoring. So his scoring should go up. His field goal percentage should go up as well. I know that he doesn't provide a lot of steals and blocks, but like he's just that engine on the Magic. And having Bane there is going to create less attention for Paolo to do his thing, to do his one-on-one thing. So, I mean, if I can get him in the early second, and I'm not sure what his ADP is at him, but like wherever he is, I think is a value because I'm willing to take him at the turn, at like the 1-2 turn.
Yeah, let me have a look at what his ADP is. Yeah, I feel like he's going. Oh yeah. So obviously, I do a lot of category leagues, and there's usually, I mean, I think he's fallen in a analyst mock we're doing at the moment. I think he fell into sort of the 40 range.
Okay, that's okay. Oh,
I'm actually. Yeah, 9-cat. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, he does get a downgrade because of, as you said, those percentages have been a little bit iffy. He turns the ball over. So let me just bring up, where's Yahoo ADP?
I'm looking on hashtag, and it says that Paolo has Yahoo. Oh, his Yahoo ADP is 14.8, which is crazy because on ESPN it's 29.5. Fantrax is 35.3. But Yahoo, he's being pushed up a ton. And this isn't even specific to points leagues. This is just in general, which, I mean...
Yeah, I think Yahoo tends to lean into points leagues. They sort of do some hybrid ADP. I don't know what goes into it. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, so Yahoo ADP sitting around that 15 mark. And it's... Yeah, I think the Fantrax one is probably more reflective of where he's going, generally speaking. So third round... maybe the fourth. But again, certain builds, like if I'm punting percentages, I'll grab him in the second round. No worries at all, even in a category league. Yeah, which lines up with that points league value. So yeah, I do like Banchero for this year as well. I just like the Magic as a whole. Again, we said the East is quite weak. So for me, I think this is an opportunity for some of those teams like Orlando, Detroit, Atlanta, these teams that are sort of there, have been there or thereabouts, to actually make that step into the top four, and can they challenge for the Eastern Conference? Maybe. We saw Cleveland sort of fell in a bit of a hole at the end of last year. So, I think there's a good opportunity for those teams. Okay, so Banchero. Now, Sengun is another one who... In a lot of category leagues, when he's drafted, people go, that's way too high for him. And that is, again, because of those deficiencies. But in a points league, I think even with Durant there, now obviously Van Fleet is not there. And we don't know if they're going to trade and bring someone in, or if Reed Shepherd's going to start. We're not sure what direction they're going to go in. But I think Sengun was really good in Eurobasket. And I mean, we take a certain amount of information from that. Dennis Schroeder is a good example of why you don't take a ton of information from Eurobasket.
Germany.
But But yeah, so what are you sort of expecting from Sengun this year? A bit of a jump?
Yeah, I think so. So I always compared, even in like his rookie year, I thought he was Jokic light. Like he
Yep.
has all the tools because he is a playmaking center. And how many playmaking centers do we have? So I guess that's kind of an easy comp.
Yep.
But like just watching him play, he is as calm, cool, and collected as Jokic out there, and he sees the court, he analyzes the defense, he sees the open guy, and like I had him, I have him ranked 17 on my
Mm-hmm.
rankings, which is high. So I am an expert ranker on Fantasy Pros, and it'll tell me how much higher or lower I have a person compared to the consensus other experts.
Yep. Yep.
He's 4 spots higher for me, and so is
Mm-hmm.
my next guy. Spoiler alert: Jaylen Brown, that
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about after. But
Yep.
Sengun, to me, I mean, even before the Fred VanVleet injury, I thought was going to just take that next step just because of age and experience, and plus Amen Thompson's getting better, so that should only increase his assists as well. And
Mm.
like Sengun, he's always working on his 3, but I don't know if that's ever going to come to fruition. Now, maybe you have other thoughts on that, Adam, but he's always working on it, but it's almost,
Yeah.
it's not like as bad as Ben
Mm.
Simmons, but like Ben Simmons always worked on his 3s like every summer, and it never amounted to anything. So I don't think he'll ever be a 3 guy, but that doesn't mean that he can't be like somewhat of a triple double threat, like a Jokic light, which
Yep.
is what you want in a points league. That mass points, rebounds, and assists is money, and like
Yeah.
any lucky steal and block is great as well. But yeah, you don't really care about his free throw percentage in points leagues. Like you'll swallow that as long as he's scoring, and the free throws
Mm.
that he makes counts towards your points. I
Yep.
think that he can be a second round value this year, and his ceiling is like that 1-2 turn that you could probably get. Um, his ADP right now is around, like 17 for Yahoo, but then 24 for ESPN, 29 for Fantrax. So if you can get him in the late second, early third, I think that's the move.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I do think, the 3-point shot, I think they would love for him to become more of a 3-point threat, especially with Amen Thompson, who isn't a shooter.
Yeah.
Being forced to do a little bit more now with Van Fleet. They would love for Sengun to be able, but I don't think it's sort of necessary. They've obviously got Kevin Durant there, who is
Right.
arguably still a top 5 scorer in the league in terms of where he can score from.
Yeah, and they got Finney Smith, who is, I'm a huge like streamers guy, and he's always like my 3-and-D, like a go-to streamer for me.
Yeah, and he'll play a little bit more. I think a lot of those
Yeah.
guys will with Van Fleet out. So no, I like Sengun. Jaylen Brown, you mentioned him, and I think he's even, category leagues, points leagues, he's getting talked about because of the fact that Jason Tatum isn't there this season. So larger role for him, with the question mark being, do the Celtics tank? Do they rest players when we hit February, March? So I guess two layers to the question. I mean, how good can he be in a points league? But is there any concern on your end from in terms of games played for him this season?
Yeah, I think FanDuel has the Celtics over under somewhere in the lower to mid 40s. So my guess is that the Celtics will compete. I think they're too prideful of an organization to just flat out tank, even if it's like a subtle tank. Like teams are trying to be subtle. Some teams are not so subtle, but I think they'll have their answer by the deadline. And of course, we'll know early on if they are winning or losing. But I think that team has too much talent right now to not at least be competitive for a play-in game, and like that's probably their floor for me. So if that's the case, like I think, like obviously Peyton Pritchard's going to either start or play heavy minutes. He should only get better from here, but Jaylen Brown is going to be the engine on that team. And I think, why wouldn't he want to show the world, hey, I can be the 1A here. I was the finals MVP for a reason, and like he wants to show out. He wants to ball out. Now, he might not be as efficient anymore, and he's not really that efficient to start with at all. Like his field goal percentage, his free throw percentage, kind of lackluster. He's decent at steals, so he's not necessarily a 9-cat dandy or anything, but points leagues, I'm targeting him all day at his current ADP. Like Fantrax has him at 42.9. Absolutely. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I will take him in like the 4th or 5th round for sure. Yahoo has him appropriately at 28.8. If I can get him in the mid-third, I will be doing backflips. I think that the Celtics will compete. And that's one of the things that I always assess, Adam, is like, will this team be competing later? Because we want that quantity, like I was saying, as well as quality. Like we want players who are good, obviously, but we want players who we think are going to last all season long. And I do think that the Celtics will be competitive, at least in a East that's just not that good. Like you were saying, like the Magic should run the East with the Cavs, and then it should be everyone else. Like the Bucks, of course, are going to be up there, and things like that. But why not the Celtics even without Tatum? And Tatum even said recently, don't count me out for the whole season. Like, which is crazy, Adam. But, he is young enough. The medical field today has been doing some incredible stuff. So it's possible that Tatum does return. So they will probably go, or it's not like probable. It's still, like he probably won't return, but there is a possibility that he will return. So maybe the Celtics go all out and try to be as competitive as possible. And Jaylen Brown's going to carry this team. And then Tatum's going to swoop in at the end. And then the Celtics might make a run. Who knows? But I really like Brown. Just to say all that.
No, I do agree. The East, as you look at the bottom end of the East there, and it's almost like the Celtics, to completely tank, they would actively have to tank really hard and basically pull their guys out of the lineup early. Yes. So, and I just don't know if it's in their DNA to do that.
Exactly.
So no, I think that's all fair. Now, look, we'll wrap up. So we've talked about sort of what you want to look for in points leagues over category leagues. Disregard those percentages. Turnovers, obviously, turnover is -1 or whatever your settings are.
Yeah,
you don't really concern yourself with that too much, I don't think, in a points league, because these higher value players are going to turn the ball over. That by the nature of the game is that if you have the ball in your hands more, you're going to turn the ball over more.
Right.
But a few guys that we're looking at, I guess people always want to know sleepers and who do we target in the later rounds of drafts and that sort of thing. You've got a few names here, players that you can get a little bit later in drafts. You've put in here Alex Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mather, and Shaden Sharp. Sharp, really good example of someone who, in a category league, he gets, I don't know, poo-pooed a little bit because of the fact that he scores and doesn't do anything else. Yeah. But in a points league, you can take him quite confidently at his ADP. So those guys are obviously on your list as players to look for. I don't know. I mean, what we consider flyers or late round targets anywhere after about pick 90, pick 100. Any other names there that aren't on that list? Or what do you look for when you get down into the 10th, 11th, 12th round of a draft?
So I will still look for usage. I will still look for age as well. Like age, like if you are anywhere between, I don't know, like 20, 21, like when you first get into the league to 30, those players are less likely to get shut down. This is just like a strategy thing. If the player is 32 and on like a middling team, or like 32 and above, like on like a middling team who could make the playoffs, could not, like you don't really want CJ McCollum this year, because I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's still on the Wizards unless they flipped him. Like, am I off on that? Like,
no, he's still there at the moment, probably much to his disgust. But no,
you know what? I'm thinking of Chris Middleton. It's like these veteran players on teams that are bottom feeders. Like, I'm not touching them unless you have the strategy, which I do. In the later rounds, I'm going to go for those young players on rebuilding teams, on tanking teams. they should get enough usage to create trade value for you, and you flip them at their highest peak if you can. Like these are just like the little things that I think about later in rounds, like either trying to hit on that sleeper, hit on a potential breakout. Like there's like a few players that I expect to take the leap, and that's Kel'el Ware in Miami. I have him ranked high above where the expert consensus has him ranked. And then there's Nick Claxton, these guys who are on terrible teams but have a lot of usage coming their way. Shadon Sharp, we just talked about. And then I have Buzelis way up. I don't know why people are sleeping on Modest, but I have him 40 spots higher. He's ranked number 69 on my list. And so, like there are guys who I will look for, even if they're not going to compete this year, but look to grab in the later rounds to hopefully flip like a 2-for-1 deal, 3-for-1 deal. I'm always looking for the 2-for-1 deals. Just because I love to stream one, and I love to hit on a streamer and then him become a part of my roster, and then hopefully trade him or just ride him all season. I think that you should always try to have at least one open roster spot that is expendable, either streaming or just 2-for-1 deals if you don't, so that you can upgrade and then try to find that diamond in the rough. And that goes for points or for 9cat, because that's always been a strategy of mine.
Yeah, I think, you have to. I think in especially, it depends on the league settings. Obviously, some leagues try to prevent that by limiting the number of moves you can make or having games cap, all that sort of thing. But generally speaking, you do want to have 1 to 2 streaming spots. And I think you need to draft with that mindset as well.
Yes.
And that's why we talk about a late round flyer. Like I'm taking Ryan Kalkbrenner in a lot of leagues this year with my last pick. And I'll know within a week whether I hold him because he's starting and playing 26 minutes or he's coming off the bench and playing 14 minutes and I just drop him. And I've talked about Kel'el Ware as a good example of that. Last year, I was all aboard Kel'el Ware. He started the season out of the rotation. Thomas Bryant was ahead of him, and I thought, oh, God. So I just dropped him. And then midway through the season, I think it was about January, he moved into the starting lineup. And by then, everyone was adding him. But you can't hold a player for 3 months if they're not playing as well. So
absolutely
just be aware of that. But no, I like a lot of those guys. Buzelis, we could do a whole show on, I think, what Buzelis could be this season.
There we go.
I actually just drafted him in, I think it was a draft-only league. So, and I took him in about the 6th or 7th round. So
I like that.
I'm pretty high on him in both formats.
I like it.
All right. So look, this went a lot longer than I thought it would.
No worries.
And you're probably going to have to go and do some chores or something now to make it up to your wife. And
Dad life. That's okay.
Yeah. No, look, my wife's not even here. My son had to go down early this morning to get a Pokemon code, I think, because he plays Pokemon Scarlet Violet on his Switch, and there's some free code today, which came out at 8 a.m. our time, to get a free shiny Koraidon. I don't know.
Miraidon. I think it's Miraidon, but I think
there's
he's
both.
Cool.
I think there's Koraidon and Miraidon.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, so I think it depends on whether you've got Scarlet Violet or Scarlet or Violet. It depends on which version of the game. Anyway, he's meeting a friend. So anyway, they're down there, I believe, getting the code and activating it and that sort of thing. So
good for him.
Yeah. Long story short, I can go and make another coffee. I don't have to go and do chores, but you do. Yeah. So I will let you go. But before you go, you've sort of mentioned where people can find some of your work. Just give us a summary, I suppose. Where can people find you and what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah. So you can find me on X at Ain't Dunne Yet, and Dunne is spelled Dunne. I do plan on doing daily streamers. So anyone who loves to stream during the season, come over to my Twitter and I'll give you like my top. It's usually around 10 to 12, 10 to 12 players each day. It's mostly geared towards points leagues, but you can always take it to 9cat because, it's usually a player that is seeing heavy minutes recently due to an injury, due to just playing well, and you want to ride that wave. So I'm all about streamers and I'm all about rankings, which you can find my rankings on Fantrax. And then during the season, I should be coming out with like streamers and deep league pickups, because I am just obsessed with finding that diamond in the rough and finding those low rostered players at the bottom of your list that come out of nowhere. Like, I want to find those guys. And so if you like streamers, if you like deep league pickups, if you like rankings, then you can find it on my Twitter and also on Fantrax.
All right, so go and follow Jacob now, and remember, follow us as well at Old Man Squad everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm at Adam King 91, at Dan Besperis, at Noah Rubin 22. Who else is on here? At NBA G Wiz, Matty G. So the team is building. The content's there's a lot of stuff coming out. I'm talking to Dan at the moment actually about some shows coming up. So stay tuned, lock in, go and subscribe, and get the notifications. Thanks for jumping on, Jacob. I know it's as I said, it has taken a while, but we got here, and we'll certainly try and do some shows during the season, depending on availability and what's happening in your life. Thank you, everyone. This has been Stuff It, a fantasy basketball podcast. We are done.